SiftPop Podcast is recorded in front of a live internet audience. Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks. If you're gonna blink, well, you can do it the whole time because it's just audio. It's SiftPop. Kind of have to have seen the movie to get that reference,
yeah.
But anyways.
Spoilers.
It's the first line of the movie.
No, I thought you said we do spoilers afterwards.
That's right, yeah. Spoilers come afterwards.
Spoilers, everybody. There are no helicopters in this movie.
That is true. Welcome to SiftPop, streaming live on Mixlr every Friday or available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get those perks.
Patrons get those perks. I'm Aaron Dicer from YourMovieFriend.com. I'm joined by Andrew Ormsby from the Flick Freaks YouTube channel.
Ahoy.
And every week we'll be joined by a pop culture guru to chat about movies, television, whatever else is on our pop culture minds. And today's guru from Jesus Live YouTube, this is DeVaughn Taylor. Woo! Welcome, DeVaughn.
Thank you. I was real excited about being called a guru. Like, I feel real official.
You are the guru.
It is now official.
That is the guru chair.
I like it.
Guru.
I like it.
Well, yeah, it's good to have you on. So let's get to know you a little bit, because this is your first time on the podcast.
Yes, sir.
You are a brand new virgin guru here, so we are excited to hear a little bit more about like where your love of movies came from. Like, when did you start deciding, hey, I'm going to not only watch movies but talk about them? Like, how did your, that whole thing progress for you?
Yeah, it's I pretty much grew up in the theater. Like I said, we've been talking beforehand, and me and my dad, we'd go do double features on the weekends, and he had a massive VHS collection, and it was just something. I mean, me and my sisters have always been watching movies, and my parents, and then...
so kind of a family thing.
Yeah, it started off as a family thing. I've always loved movies, and then I guess my passion didn't really develop until a few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, whenever I started finding the online community of other film buffs and stuff like that, and then, actually, like, taking the time to like break down movies and with the different writers and directors and actually learning and it just kind of blossomed from there.
It's kind of the next step, right? You find with like people who do this is they all of a sudden realize there's more to it than just the movie on the screen.
Exactly.
And you start to see some of the storytelling elements and some of the ways different directors do different things, and there's this whole universe beyond just the story on screen. And I think it's important to take both into account, right? Like here's just the the surface of
the
what
final
you're seeing.
product.
Yeah, the final product, but then also to take into account how it got there, what it, the director is trying to say, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
If you know the ins and outs of how a movie, like all the production and stuff, it's a miracle any movie ever gets made. It's just fascinating.
And it makes you appreciate it that much more when you get the, like you said, you had the pre-production, then, filming, and then, marketing. It's like once you realize that it takes, years to make a movie and then from to finally come to be, like, just makes you appreciate it a lot more. And that's where I guess the passion started coming in, where I'm like, all right, movies, there's a whole new world to it. So
I always appreciate like the pioneers who were the first ones to be like, let's do something a little more with this art form. I think of Hitchcock, of course, and some of the stuff he did with the way he shot Orson Welles, like with Citizen Kane. Some of the stuff in that movie absolutely changed the way people thought movies could, to kind of transition it from just storytelling to art.
Kubrick, I mean, I've been on a real big Kubrick kick lately. And he was definitely one of those people who's always been ahead of his time and then was just doing things that people weren't doing in movies.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody besides James Cameron today that's doing that?
Well, that's innovating? Oh, for sure. I mean, many people would say Nolan with the way he uses, the mind. Certainly you look at the first few movies he did with like, Memento and Prestige and...
Pi was Aronofsky, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think there are a lot of innovators in film. It's kind of one of the fun things to watch. Well, today we are going to do Kubo and the Two Strings. Going to review that a little bit. We're going to review War Dogs. We're going to do Best Ever Challenge, where we're going to name our favorite stop-motion animated films of all time. And, of course, we'll have some buried treasure. But we like to start it off with some Do We Care? Mr. Andrew Ormsby is going to read 3 pop culture headlines, and then DeVaughn and myself will say if we care enough to talk more about them.
So... really slow news week. Had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get the news items. First one up. HBO is working to reboot the 1950s series Perry Mason, and they are looking at Robert Downey Jr. to be the star lead.
Oh, I didn't care until you said RDJ.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, I don't need to see Perry Mason again. And you're like, Robert Downey Jr. I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah. old attorney from the 1950s was in the original run of that show, and then they rebooted it back again in the 80s. Now HBO's taking over, and they want RDJ to do it.
What do you think, DeVaughn?
I'm more on the fence of I don't care, I suppose, about this one. It's a show that, I never was into or anything, and with RDJ, it's kind of crazy seeing, whenever you see an actor doing a role for so long, doing these big budget movies and then going back to TV. And sometimes it's either, they're phoning it in for the TV series or they, needed a break from the movie. So,
I don't know. You look at Spader. James Spader was a movie star for a long time, and then, he did The Blacklist, and he's phenomenal on it, And so there's some of these people that can do, and I think the charisma of Robert Downey Jr. might be one of them, where, especially in the context of kind of the Perry Mason thing, which was always the lawyer who was one step ahead and, had there's something about a great courtroom scene. And if they really, plus HBO doing it, they're going to pull out all the stops.
People vs. OJ, that was huge this year.
It was such a phenomenal show too.
I will definitely be interested to see if that comes out. Is it something they're just in talks about, or are they starting pre-production?
It's in talks right now. Nobody's signed anything, but they made.
That sounds interesting.
HBO made an announcement about it, so I'm assuming there's some. Something behind this. They're not just, hey, we'd like to do this.
Well, sometimes they put out feelers, right? Sometimes they'll make an announcement to see what the public reaction will be a little bit, too.
I think that they would automatically know, you get a name like Perry Mason and you tie it to RDJ, you're going to get nothing but praise back. So
yeah,
for sure.
That's why I'm assuming that there's something to this.
It could be. All right, what's the next one?
Next one up, Comedy Central made an announcement that Inside Amy Schumer is not canceled, but it is on hiatus indefinitely.
Schumer's an interesting case, right? Because great comedian, and then she just blew up, and then she was all over everything. And I think it happens with a lot of comedians where they their fame oversteps their journey.
They kind of blow up a little bit too fast.
Yeah.
And they don't exactly have the time to catch up and put out more quality stuff, I suppose.
Who was the comedian who, what's his name? Left his show.
Chappelle?
Chappelle. Dave Chappelle had the same kind of thing. Just kind of blew way up, and then it was his fame outstripped his journey, and so he kind of had to walk back into it. Yeah. And I think, my understanding with Amy Schumer is she's dealing with a lot of stuff that she wasn't expecting with all this fame, and so she's trying to, figure it out.
Social media stuff and movies and stuff, so I can see how it's getting a little bit hard for her to keep up with her TV show, I suppose.
Yeah,
I think you're going to see more and more this verbiage of hiatus versus canceled.
Yeah,
because they've started using it. I remember when Larry, what was the Seinfeld guy? Larry David.
Yeah.
When he did Curb Your Enthusiasm, took a break. They're talking about that coming back now.
Oh yeah, that is coming back. Yeah, that's for sure.
And they've always said that was just on hiatus, and I think that's going to be more of the thing now. So.
Look at Sherlock with Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. It's been 3 years since the last season.
So. Yeah, it's always on hiatus.
Yeah.
It's either in season or on hiatus. Yeah, absolutely. What else you got?
So this is where I need to apologize for our final news article. Like I said, I had to
you should have let off with that one.
Had to scrape the bottom of the barrel, and I actually had to get into gossip to find news. And I hate gossip.
Then I'm already in the not care camp, but go ahead.
Amber Heard and Johnny Depp have reached a divorce settlement.
No.
Amber Heard donated all her $7 million in the settlement to charity.
Well, that's cool, but no, I really don't care about the comings and goings of celeb relationships.
I couldn't care less, but I needed a third news item, and that was literally all it was. So...
you could talk a little bit about why people find that stuff out. Are you in the same boat, DeVaughn? Do you care about that stuff at all?
No. I mean, I draw a fine line between the artist and their personal life,
right.
And stuff like that. So it's if I care about the person as an actor, whatever they do in their personal life and whatever's going on, that's their stuff, So I'm never big into the gossip or the rumor mills and stuff
so
like that.
So why is it so big? I mean, we're 3 for 3 over here going, I don't care about that stuff. Why does it get all the clicks?
Drama.
Is it drama? People are attracted to drama?
People love drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. No, I don't care about that.
I don't know. Or maybe kind of people need a reminder that, these celebrities are people too, maybe, I guess, to just be like, hey, look, they have drama in their life too.
Us Weekly does it every, in their magazine, they're just people too. So we don't need all the articles. There are enough pictures that prove it.
Yeah, exactly.
The bad haircut stuff, out walking the street.
It makes me just want to get through the line at Walmart just that much quicker so I can stop looking at all those news articles.
You don't have to look, Andrew. You don't have to pull them out and leaf through them like you do.
No, I'm even talking about just like looking at the cover. I'm like, man, people buy that, and it just makes me sad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff, right?
It is good stuff.
The shamisen, the 3-stringed instrument.
I love Regina Spektor, and she does this cover of this Beatles song. My guitar gently weeps, and kind of goes over the end credits, but it's good stuff. So we're going to talk about Kubo and the Two Strings, an animated film, the latest stop-motion animated film from Leica Studios, who also did Paranorman, Coraline,
Box Trolls.
Box Trolls. That's right. That's the one.
Trolls.
That was even more recent. And so now they've got a story about this, magical kid on an adventure and a journey, and he's kind of figuring out his story as he's telling us his story. And we won't give any spoilers away as much as we can help it. We will do a spoiler cast where we'll go more into depth, because I definitely want to get into some spoilers with this one.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And so if you're subscribed to the podcast, you can certainly check that out. But we like to start with just a very simple: did you like it? Did you love it? Was it okay? Did you dislike it? Or did you hate it? I'm going to start on this because I need you guys maybe to pull me back. I loved this through the roof. This is one of my maybe my favorite movie I've seen this year so far.
Really?
I loved this movie. So I'll be counting on you guys to bring me back down to earth on this one, possibly. What'd you think, Andrew?
That was okay.
Okay. What about you, DeVaughn?
I wanted to love it, but I did really like it, though.
Ooh, nice. We've got a nice little range here.
It, but
yeah.
Nice little range here. Well, let's kind of get into it. Let's do just some general thoughts. Andrew, let's start with you. What are your general thoughts on Kubo and the Two Strings?
First pro I have, this movie is one of the most visually stunning movies I have ever seen.
Oh, right from the beginning.
Yeah.
It is just, and to think that they're doing it with stop motion, and I love the way the movie itself plays with the idea of storytelling through, objects, in this case, origami, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same exact thing they're doing. They're telling a story with, modeling clay and paper. And...
I did notice that, this movie is very meta, because it's a storyteller talking about telling stories, and then stop motion with the origami. So it's a very meta movie.
Yeah. And there are some scenes in this that are just, I really kind of wish I had seen it in 3D. Because some of this stuff, like the textures and that kind of stuff, I think really would have popped in 3D. But we saw the 2D version, and I was still absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
What about you, DeVaughn? What's something you like?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. The production value for this movie is incredible. That's the thing I appreciate about stop motion the most is, all the talent that goes into it. And then, we're getting scenes in this movie that are better looking visuals than we're getting from live action movies. I mean, it's incredible. So yeah, definitely that's the biggest pro of this movie is it looks amazing. It really does.
Yeah, and the visual style of the origami and the different kind of things in it just seemed really distinctive to me too. It seemed like something that I hadn't really seen done that way before. And so I really appreciated that about the movie too. All right, I'm just gonna kind of rant on how much I love this movie.
Go for it.
And then you can add in where you agree or disagree. But since I'm the passionate one about this one, maybe I'll just talk about it a little bit. First of all, you already mentioned the gorgeous animation style. Second of all, I think the depth in this movie is really beautiful. A lot of the emotion works because of how fully realized this world and this story is. And I love it when a movie takes me to a place that hasn't existed before and knows its world. And I just felt like this movie knew exactly the world it was living in. It just seemed really creative and really inventive in a lot of those ways.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think you're going to make me a believer. You might turn me into the loving side, because I agree with everything you're saying so far. I love a movie that can build a world in such a short amount of time and be able to transport you to that world. And then, you really buy into the characters of this movie. And that's definitely, and there is a lot of depth. And that's kind of what this animation studio, their movies have done. Coraline and Paranorman and Box Trolls, they, are family-friendly movies that everybody can watch. But it does go into some, deeper themes, though, for sure.
I have always appreciated that about Leica, but this, I think, takes it to a whole nother level. But they do always seem very concerned with the thematics of their movie and with their, storytelling. And this one I thought did that really well.
I'm going to say that I agree that they knew the world like Inside and Out, I don't think they did the best job of passing on that knowledge to the viewers.
And
they could have done it way better.
Is there a specific you can give that isn't a spoiler? Or should we, save it for spoilers and talk about it a little bit more?
Yeah, probably save it for spoilers.
There's a lot here that I'm going to, want to be more specific with in spoilers because the story is so interesting to me. I will move on then, since we're going to save that for spoilers, to the characters. You mentioned the characters. That was another thing I loved about this movie.
Phenomenal voice acting from people who normally aren't voice actors.
McConaughey was great in this.
And DeVaughn and...
Yeah, and Rooney Mara was great as the sisters.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's who the sisters were.
That was Rooney Mara,
that was
Ray
good.
Fiennes, right? Ray Fiennes was Moon King. Lot of names but again, they just fit their characters so well that you just felt like those characters were speaking. And I actually did not know, because again, I go in as blank as possible. I didn't know who the voice talent in this was going in. And there was something about the way his character was saying his S's. I was like, I think that might be Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
But it was only his S's that gave him away. Yeah. He was a real interesting...
Never said all right, or played bongos.
He got into a speech where he went into a McConaughey speech for a sec. Yeah. I remember giggling about it whenever he just kept repeating the same words over and over. He's like, and over, and they tell their people. And then I was like, this is definitely McConaughey. They had to slip that one in.
I loved... that character. I loved the Matthew McConaughey character. I thought it was well-needed comic relief and well-executed comic relief in a movie that right from the beginning is really traumatic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trauma in this movie and really deep. And so I think it needed that, that one character that, you could laugh at a little bit, and I thought I handled it well.
Maybe you guys can answer this one because let everybody here know I'm not really into, or I shouldn't say I'm not into, I haven't seen that many stop-motion films. Is this from Leica, is this a concept and a art form that they use these really dark?
Yes.
Is this something you see a lot in their
Definitely,
films?
Okay. Like I said, I rewatched Coraline the other night, and that's one of my favorites, and it's from the same studio. And like I said, they are very good at taking these stories and, like I said, making it viewable for everyone, but they are, taking deeper themes. And kind of something you were saying was that, they weren't letting the viewers in as much. I would say maybe for the children, because I would say, this is an animated movie, and I would say this is one of the darker ones, actually, not as relatable. But then as soon as McConaughey's character came in, it lightened everything up, and then I was like, okay, I can see kids enjoying this a little bit more now.
Yeah, I think it's enjoyable in the way, and this isn't a perfect one-to-one comparison, but I think it's enjoyable for a kid in the way something like The Neverending Story was enjoyable for me as a kid. Neverending Story has some really dark moments in it, really dark moments.
The Mork, or the horse,
the Swamps of Sadness, and that kind of stuff. So I think just the imagination of it and the world building of it, I think will really appeal to kids who. In the same way that something like The Neverending Story did to me.
I will say this. I know, and this is weird to say, I know this is a movie on a second viewing, I would appreciate it more.
Could be, yeah.
Because it's one of those movies where you find out stuff, you're presented with stuff, you don't know what's going on, and then by the end of the movie, you're like, okay, now I have all the information. If I were to go back and watch it, I would appreciate it.
And see the clues and the foreshadowing.
Exactly, yeah.
I felt like this story did a really good job of presenting us with information when we needed it to kind of compel us along. And specifically, there were quite a few quote-unquote twists in this story, just kind of story shifts where you learn something that, some information that you didn't know. Many of them I saw coming. Many of them I felt were foreshadowed quite a bit, and that's fine with me. It doesn't have to be a surprise to be a good story movement. There were a couple, though, and I can't wait to talk. One in particular, I said a couple. I think just one in particular caught me totally off guard, and I loved, and it was towards the end, and we'll talk about that in spoilers. But I thought this movie did a good job of holding its cards and playing them at the right time. Did you guys feel that?
I'll agree to a point on that one, because there were at times I would find myself going, okay, why is this happening here? Or what is the motivation here? And then they kind of, like you said, they sprinkle it in, they give it to you when you need it. But at the same time, I kind of found myself, just kind of thinking okay, I really need to know the answer to this now. So that can be a little drawback for me.
What about you, Andrew?
Yeah. he said literally exactly what I was about to say. So
Cool.
I hate saying yes, but that's what I'm going to go with right now. So
Ditto.
yes.
Just pull a ghost. Ditto. I loved this movie. Do
you have any cons at all?
This is why I need you. I have a couple of things that I feel are really slight that I could talk about. Because one thing we haven't talked about is the action. I thought the action was really cool. There were some really interesting fight scenes. And not only was the action cool because it was cool action, it was cool because the style of it had to do with the environment. So when you would get to a new action scene, depending on who it was, they would fight in a different way, or they would, interact in a different way. I don't think it's a spoiler too much to say one of the characters has a pipe, and so smoke is kind of her, weapon. I found that really fascinating. And really
music is a weapon.
Music is a weapon. Yeah.
You're going to think this is weird, but every single time they fought with music, I thought of Scott Pilgrim.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's weird. I think
the bass battle and
the
stuff.
bass battle and stuff like that. That was something
that makes
I kept going back to.
It makes total sense. The only thing I didn't mention, and then I'm going to let you guys tell me what the cons are so I can start to see them.
Okay.
Because I admit I get movie blind. If I fall in love with a movie, especially early on, I get movie blind. I had it happen with How to Train Your Dragon 2, which I gave an A+ after I saw. Loved it. Upon further watching, I'm like, oh, okay, there are a few things here or there, So I do admit I get movie blind, so I want to hear your opinions. But the final thing I will say is I thought the emotion worked phenomenally at the end of this movie.
The emotion definitely worked.
And that's where Andrew says didn't work for him.
Do you want to do a con first? Or?
So here's what I'm going to say. Poor editing leads to poor storytelling.
Okay.
So, yes, this movie was very good about passing on knowledge when you needed it. Sometimes they waited, I think, a little too long. Not for spoilers or anything, or twists, I should say. But there were a couple times where you're introduced to a character and you're like, wait, how did that come to pass? And they're like, well, it just happened. And you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll figure out later on. And then you do figure out later on. But at the same time, I thought that there were moments in this movie where parts were edited in, and I'm like, I think that the storytelling, for me, honestly, I was watching this movie and I was telling myself over and over again, if they would have done this, it would have been a perfect movie. If they would have done this little twist, it would have been a perfect movie. And for me, it was a bunch of little edits and a little bit of storytelling faux pas, I should say, where I was like, man, if they would have just tweaked it a little bit, this movie would have been one of the best animated movies I'd ever seen.
I'm really excited to get into specifics about that because I did not see that at all. Like, I didn't have any of those moments.
I can tell. Yeah.
So, no, I'm excited because maybe I was just blind to them. I'm excited to hear specifics on the spoiler cast.
Yeah.
What were some of your cons, or one of your cons?
Yeah, I'll say the editing didn't really bother me, but one that I would like to know is, I don't think this is a spoiler because we never get the answer to it, is just like, I want to know a little bit more about like how this magic worked and like this family that has these abilities. I just kind of want to know where that came from.
The movie kind of takes it for granted.
And it does. Then it's just kind of never explained either, which, don't get me wrong, I like being caught up in the spectacle of it and the wonderment. But at the same time, I was just kind of like, can I just get like a little flashback on like the story of this family and like the way they have these abilities?
See, that's what I was talking about. Like, they're presenting knowledge as you need it, but sometimes they don't. That's what I was trying to get at.
So for me, the reason that doesn't bother me, and I actually kind of like it, is because I think movies a lot of time will get too mixed up in trying to explain things. You think of midichlorians in the Star Wars universe or something like that, where, it's kind of the prime example of over-explaining something. And sometimes I just like it just to accept a world. You've put me in this world, I'll accept it. Now, if I need to know it for a story point and you leave it out, then that's going to distract me a little bit. But, if I'm understanding the story and what's going on and I'm just taking for granted the rules of your world, then I'm okay with that. I don't need to know, why. Plus, this movie was so metaphorical in so many ways. And with metaphor, it's not as much about the real universe and how it became that way as it is about what it is existing right now trying to tell you.
I see it in two ways, and I can explain why. It's because, this movie has it's made for such a wide audience range. So it's like, on one end, I applaud them for, presenting certain things that we don't need explained to us because, they're not pandering to the children, being like, hey, you're a little kid, you don't understand this.
Sure.
Here's this. But at the same time, like for people like us, that are watching the movie for the enjoyment and are older, we still do want some of that explanation. So it's like, like you said, I think they just didn't explain it because, it's just supposed to be what it is. And enjoy it for what it is.
And they can explore it in a, in a different movie. If they want to do, an expanded universe and explore some of that stuff, there's, certainly can do that. It actually reminded me, the last time I felt this way about a universe was when I watched the original Last Airbender series, Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I was just like, oh, what a fully realized universe with rules. And, and that's the last time I got kind of this feeling from a project was when I saw that.
Yeah.
Anything else on the negative side for me to keep in mind?
I will say one negative, and it'll be my one last thing as well. So
yeah, let's do one more thing. One last thing about this movie.
So for my one last thing, I did have the lack of resolution in this film really stuck out to me, and I know why they did it. But it's something I'll have to get in more depth to in spoilers.
Yeah, you will, because I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of spoilers to talk about this.
Yeah.
That, to me, is a sign of a great movie, too, where you really want to talk. Because, our conversation, because my boys went with me, 3 of them, we had the most amazing conversations on the way back about some really deep stuff and some interesting stuff. So
it's good that a movie can do that.
Right,
too.
yeah. I love those kind of movies. And that's the other part of why I rave about movies like this, is that's my thing. The kind of movies where you're thinking about and talking about them afterwards in depth, that's my jam. Like, I love, thinker movies
totally
in that
agree.
way.
Yeah.
So, and I definitely think Kubo is one.
DeVaughn, do you have one last thing?
Yeah, one last thing, DeVaughn?
My one last thing, I'd say I don't have too many cons for it, but at the same time, it didn't just, blow my mind. But I can appreciate everything they do. And like I said, I just love the studio and the way they make their movies. So, the production alone is just enough for me to give it a really good score. And then just the emotion, the story on top of it, just kind of added on to it for me.
My one last thing is a little bit different as well. My one last thing is go see it. Like, this is the kind of movie I really want to encourage people to see in the theater, because I want these kind of movies to be made. It's an original property. It's not, based on another movie or another story or something existing in pop culture. It's innovative. It's beautiful to look at on the big screen.
Exactly.
And I want more of these movies made. And it was just us in the theater opening night. And I'm thinking they're never going to make these kind of movies again, because nobody goes to see them. But if you love cinema, if you love movies, I would highly encourage you to take the family to this one. I think it's a really great time.
Definitely
and a good movie.
Agree.
So that would be my one last thing.
All right.
Thank you so much for your support of SiftPop. It is a listener-supported podcast. That means we could not do what we do without you and many people like you who give $1
you guys
every
are
month.
The best.
$2, $3 every month. Some as high as $100 every month to support SiftPop. Thank you so much for those gifts. And it's the reason we're able to do this thing, to have the time to do it. So thank you so much for doing that. If you want to be involved in that, there are some fun perks. We do it through Patreon, patreon.com /ShoeTheDough. That's the name of the podcast network that SiftPop is on, and that supports the entire network, including other podcasts that air as well. That's patreon.com /ShoeTheDough. And thanks ahead of time for being absolutely amazing peoples. Just eat. Just eat. Just eat. Just eat. Just eat. Just eat.
Kidding.
You may recognize that song from the War Dogs trailer. We're going to talk a little bit of War Dogs. A movie about a couple 20-somethings who decided to become gun runners. If that's not enough to get you interested,
on a true story.
You should know that it's based on a true story, which absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah.
To think that this stuff actually happened. It stars Jonah Hill and Miles Teller as kind of the main characters in our story, as a couple of old friends from junior high who reunite to sell guns to the United States of America. Let's kick it off with some liked it, loved it, it was okay, didn't like it, hated it. DeVaughn, why don't you go first?
Yeah, like I said, I felt a certain way about this because I was really excited for this, and we were talking before, I got burnt out on the trailer, and I just wanted to see this movie And it was underwhelming. I'll say it's okay. I won't say that I didn't like it, but it was okay. I think this movie was very confused on what it was trying to do.
What do you think, Andrew?
I liked it.
So you go in the liked it category?
I'm going to stick with liked it.
I'm in the it was okay category as well. Bordering on I liked it. Like there were just some things in it.
There were things to like for sure.
That's good stuff. I didn't mention Bradley Cooper's in it as well. Enjoyed his performance. So there were some things in it that I enjoyed, but overall, I think it has some pretty major flaws that bring it down to be just okay for me. But let's talk about the good stuff first. Why don't you start, Andrew?
Performances.
Yeah,
they're good. They're
Jonah
really
Hill's
good.
great, man.
I
isn't
love
he?
Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
I haven't always loved him either.
It's interesting because it's also one of my cons is the performances as well.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So what about the performances or the pro?
So I think that the chemistry that Miles Teller and Jonah Hill showed, like working together, it was flawless. I bought every second of it, and it got to the point where whenever I was watching this movie, I didn't say, "Oh, that's Miles Teller" or "Oh, that's Jonah Hill" on screen. I bought into their characters so well.
I think Jonah Hill has that. Like in most of the movies I see him in, he just does a really good job with chemistry. I think he builds relationships with his co-stars in a way that makes the on-air chemistry feel very real. I felt the same way about him and Brad Pitt in Moneyball. You know, I mean, he just has a way of doing that with his co-stars.
Leo and Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe that's just something. Maybe that's one of the reasons his performances pop, and maybe one of the underrated reasons why actors are good is because they get along with their co-stars. So that's something to think about. What about you? What did you like, DeVaughn?
I'm on the same boat there. I did definitely buy into the chemistry. I believe them as junior high friends. I definitely I enjoyed the tone of the movie. Just kind of this freewheeling, just the American dream type of tone, I suppose. I did enjoy that, but most of my problems are in like the story of this movie.
I really, that's interesting that you say that, and I think I know what you're talking about, and I have some of those story issues as well, but I was just getting ready to say, I think the actual true storyness of this is one of the key reasons I enjoyed parts of it. The fact that the things that we're seeing on screen are based on true events that happen. I love interesting stories, and I think there is an interesting story here. What I think you're talking about is the fact that I don't think it was told as well as it could have been told.
Yes, it's the way it was told.
Which is a shame, right? When you've got something this captivating and interesting and strange that you kind of swing and miss on the telling that story in a few places.
When we talk spoilers, the ending definitely salvaged it a little bit for me.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Anything else you want to mention, Andrew, that you loved?
Oh, man. I can't believe I'm totally disagreeing because you're going to hate me for this, Aaron. I enjoyed War Dogs more than I like Kubo.
No,
I swear I did.
No, that's not okay.
I'm not saying because, honestly, Kubo just didn't do it for me.
Sure.
But, yeah, I thought Kubo was okay, but I liked
Do you feel
War
like
Dogs.
you just had a good time during the movie? Like, was that part of it? Was just kind of the elevated energy?
I liked War Dogs a lot. Like, I'm not going to say I loved it, but I really liked it. And I bought into the characters. I bought into the story. I had, from beginning to end, I cared, and I wanted to know what was going to happen to these guys. Because, obviously, if they're telling a story, and this is not really a spoiler if you're familiar with this type of storytelling, but whenever a narrator, because the film is narrated, whenever it's narrated and they're telling you about all the illegal stuff they did, you know that they're going to get their comeuppance. And I was wanting to know what was going to happen to them from beginning to end. I'm like, how is this going to fall? Because it's going to happen.
Yeah, I was interested in the story points. Like, those were drawing me along. Like, when is it going to turn? What information's going to be found out? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My main problem with this movie, I think it's my main problem. I have two major issues with this movie. One is, and we'll call this one the main one. I think it slows down. I think there are some...
The pacing is definitely off it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the first half a lot more than I enjoyed the second half.
Exactly. The second half really felt...
Because when that turn happens, it's very abrupt. And then the second half, I was just kind of like, okay.
I was bored through some of this.
Yeah.
I was still excited to know what was going to happen, but what they were showing me on the screen wasn't telling me anything I didn't feel like that I needed to know.
I was never bored.
Yeah, I was.
Never bored.
I'll watch a 2 to 3 hour movie, no problem.
Sure.
As long as I don't feel like it. And I definitely felt the time on this one.
Do you think
As
it
I
was
was
because
watching
we
it.
watched 2 movies back to back?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
I mean, I'm used to that, so I don't.
Yeah.
I
We
don't
had plenty
think it
of
was
time
that.
in between. It was just, I felt myself wondering, like, man, how long is
That
this
was the
movie
main
gonna
conversation
go?
my wife and I had on the way home, was that it just felt boring at times. And I remember at one point when I had the thought, oh man, I'm bored right now. And and in that moment, I heard the guy behind us snoring.
Oh, no.
I don't know if you heard him,
God.
but
No,
he was
I
asleep.
didn't hear him.
He was asleep. And I think he got his whoever was with him bumped him and told him to wake up because he was snoring out loud. And listen, people are tired. That doesn't mean the movie was boring. It just happened to coincide with the exact moment I was thinking that we were kind of hitting a slow spot. And you're right. I think that specifically is towards the second half of the movie. The other major issue I have, and this is kind of a personal thing, not everybody has this. I had a protagonist problem with this movie. I loved Miles Teller's performance, but I couldn't root for him. I couldn't put myself in his position where he's making these choices.
Well, see, I think that's kind of the point. We're not supposed to root for either of them, really.
I don't know. I think the movie wants us to root for Miles. I really do think the movie is telling us
I'm with DeVaughn on this.
he's the good guy.
They're the anti-heroes.
Yeah, they're definitely
I
anti-heroes
didn't
in this.
I didn't pick up on that at all. I picked up that Jonah Hill was the negative force and that Miles Teller was swept into it, and that he was, reluctant, and, all the stuff with the honesty with it. I think we're supposed to root for their relationship. I think we're supposed to root for him. I think we're supposed to be really happy when, he tells him off. And I really feel like the movie's point of view is that we're supposed to like Miles.
Out of the 2, you're supposed to like Miles more. I don't think that you're supposed to root for them to succeed, though.
Well,
So
no. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, okay, let me make a distinction, because I think you're right. I don't think the movie is saying that what they're doing is okay. What I think the movie is trying to make us do is understand how he could get there and his motivation to get there, and I just didn't buy it. Like, I'm just like, no. Immediately, like, no, I'm out. Like, so many of those decisions, like, I just can't see, somebody getting swept up into those, without the nefarious
And maybe we can
mindset.
use this as to tie into the con I had with this movie, is because coming straight off of Wolf of Wall Street, I thought that Jonah Hill was playing pretty much the exact same character. Like his mannerisms were different, but the nobody who is trying everything, illegal or not, to strive to be the greatest. And it felt like Wolf of Wall Street, just with guns.
Well, what's interesting, though, is his character in Wolf of Wall Street was more the Miles Teller character, right?
For a minute.
Yeah.
And then he turned in Wolf of Wall Street to the same character of,
right.
the druggie, and, I was like, man, this feels a lot like Wolf of Wall Street.
Did you like Wolf of Wall Street?
Love Wolf of Wall Street.
So many amazing scenes in that movie.
Yeah, the Popeye scene is still one of the best scenes ever.
The Popeye scene, the scene on the boat.
I guess that would bring me into my biggest con for this is, like you said, I guess my problem isn't the story itself, but the way it was told. I felt that it was very unoriginal. They were taking a cool idea, but they were doing the same old, okay, you got the one guy, he gets swept up into it, and then one person, they kind of start turning on each other, and one guy wants out, and then it's like, the struggle between them, and then, they get their comeuppance at the end, I felt like it was just an unoriginal way to tell the story. It just felt very typical, and then, like I said, the pacing was just, I couldn't tell if this was supposed to be, more comedic moments, or there's supposed to be more drama to it. I felt like it was just kind of confused in what kind of movie it was trying to be.
I felt the confusion, especially at the end, and not to give anything away, but I wasn't sure what they were trying to say with the final scene of the movie. I thought it ended well, and then it threw another scene up there, and I was like, why was that there?
Yeah,
what did that mean?
I found myself asking why a lot too, because there's going to be a struggle between them, but I felt like it was forced, because I was like, why would he make that decision? Why would he do that? Why would he lie about that? And I was just like, why? Like, this is a very forced struggle, and then that's just kind of what brought down the middle half of it for me.
There were scenes in this movie, like you were saying, where decisions were made off camera, and then we see the repercussions of it, but we don't see their personal justification as to why they chose to do those things. And I'm like, wait, what? But why would you do that in the first place? And that was something that was probably my one last thing. I do agree that the ending was needed some work because I'm with you. I'm like, wait, what?
I was fine with the ending because I guess I won't say. I'll wait till spoilers to say why I like.
And I don't
the
know
ending.
that there's a ton to spoil in this movie, so maybe for spoilers for this, we'll just talk about the ending real quick.
Yeah.
Because it is worth talking about. For my one last thing, I actually kind of mentioned everything I wanted to mention. Yeah, I think I covered it all. I was going to say it's too long, but that kind of was with the the slow and boring parts for me. But do you have one last thing?
I wanted more Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
I enjoyed his character and the way they kind of introduced him in the trailer. I thought he would have a little bit more of a presence in this, and I wanted more Bradley Cooper. I'm a big Cooper fan, and it was a very interesting role for him. Like, just, I don't know, something about it just kind of...
It's a good performance.
I was very intrigued.
I thought it was a good performance. I think he does a good job.
So that's my one last thing. More Cooper.
More Cooper. Well, good stuff, guys. Let's transition into the best ever challenge.
Do it.
This is naming the best ever movies, top 3 in a certain category based on one of the movies we review this week. In this case, we're going to do stop motion films. Best ever. We'll work our way from number 3 to number 1. DeVaughn, kick us off. What's your third best ever stop motion animated film?
My third. I was going back and forth between two of them. So are we going honorable mentions at the end?
Yeah, well, if there's something that doesn't get mentioned by anybody that you want to mention, we'll
so my
mention
number 3 is Corpse Bride.
Okay.
I absolutely love Corpse Bride. I grew up as a big Tim Burton fan, and he just kind of everything about it. I love the music in Corpse Bride. The animation's great. The voice performances are great. And it has a really interesting story to it about, the way you're supposed to view companionship and love, with the arranged marriage and everything. So Corpse Bride is my number 3.
Andrew, what's your number 3?
So I need to preface by saying that I am really not I haven't seen that many stop motion films. So mine is going to be kind of cheating here and there. So my number 3 is the 1933 film King Kong.
I don't think that's cheating. There's a lot of stop motion in that.
Yeah, it's live action, but there's whenever I think of stop motion, I think of like Corpse Bride or Coraline.
That's 100%.
Yeah, but no, it's one of the first stop motion films ever, and it created one of the most iconic movie characters of all time.
I'm telling you, the effect they got in the dinosaur scene in that original King Kong with just stop motion is incredible for the time. Audiences must have been eating that up.
Yeah.
So I totally get including. In fact, I probably would have included that if I had thought of that as a stop motion film.
Yeah.
But like you, I think of 100% stop motion.
Aaron, number 3.
Number 3 for me, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
All right, that's my number 2, so I'll just say that.
Wes Anderson doing stop motion animation. I love how this movie, I love how adult it is for a stop motion animated film and how the themes in it are just beautiful. And I love a lot of the choices that they make in that movie.
I still have not seen that one.
Really?
Fantastic Mr. Fox?
I just started getting into Wes Anderson about a year ago, so I'm catching up. But yeah, Fantastic.
Do you enjoy his
Fox
stuff? Because he's an acquired taste. I think Wes Anderson is an acquired taste.
I've only seen, my very first one was Grand Budapest Hotel, which was one of his more recent ones.
Yeah.
And then I went back, I watched Moonrise Kingdom.
I love Moonrise Kingdom. That's my
Kingdom's
favorite.
Real good.
I think my favorite Wes Anderson is still Life Aquatic.
Yeah?
Yeah. Probably still my favorite.
All right, you said your number 2 is Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yep, so
DeVaughn, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Coraline from the same company that did Kubo. I love Coraline for the same reasons that I enjoy Kubo, but I feel like it just did it so much better, taking the darker themes. And it's real dark too. If you haven't seen Coraline in a little bit, I just rewatched it, and it's one of my favorites. It's just real dark, but I love the story and the world that it created. It's just another one of those movies that the world was created so fantastically.
I'm glad you mentioned Coraline. I would have mentioned it for honorable mention if none of us had, because I really do like Coraline.
Love Coraline
it's
so
a great
much.
movie.
Aaron, number 1.
Number 2.
I
haven't done my number 2 yet.
Okay, yeah.
It is The Nightmare Before Christmas. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Tim Burton, it is probably the definitive stop-motion animated film.
I think it's the most iconic.
Yeah, it certainly is. Here's my question. Is it a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie?
Both.
Which is it? If you had to pick one.
It's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I'll go Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
I think it is, too. I think it's a Christmas movie, too. And I think it's such a movie about understanding, your purpose, who you are. It's a really beautiful film.
Just because it's not full of greens and reds doesn't take away from the fact that it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's my number one if we want to get
Okay.
right.
Go
Well,
for
yeah,
it, man.
go-
So talk a
you're
little
number
more
one.
about it.
Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas, not only my favorite stop animation, it is my favorite movie of all time. Like, I showed Andrew my tattoo, like, it's one of my favorites of all time.
Nice.
I absolutely love it. Just for my childhood, like, I can literally recite every word from the songs, dialogue, everything. I can watch it a million times. In December, I try to see how many times I can watch it in the month of December.
That's
And it's
so
just kind of
great.
a personal challenge for me. But and it's a Christmas movie because it's, you know, exploring the ideals of what it is for Christmas, the spirit of Christmas, really tapping into it, and Jack learning a lesson about what Christmas really is. So
I think I heard recently that Danny Elfman actually sings the songs. When
Danny-
Jack sings
yes.
in that movie, it's actually Danny Elfman
yes,
singing.
the voice actor that did Jack, he had a very bad cold when they were making the film, so Danny Elfman stepped in to do
amazing.
the singing.
That's
And,
great.
I mean, this movie it's a 77-minute movie, and it took 3.5 years to do.
It's an underrated musical. You know, it doesn't come to the
Oh,
top
yeah.
of your mind when you think of the best musicals, you know, but it definitely should be up there. It's great music.
Ken Page, that plays Oogie Boogie, is from St. Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number one, Aaron.
My number one is Chicken Run.
That was going to be my honorable mention.
Was
That's a
it?
deep
So,
dive.
Yeah.
I love Chicken Run. I love the guys in Aardman. I've always loved Wallace and Gromit. I think they do great work. They have a really great sense of humor.
It's Mel Gibson, isn't it?
Mel Gibson voices the main chicken there, but it is distinctly British and yet at the same time very accessible to an American audience, I think. There's some great movie parody things in there that I think are kind of subtle that I love. I love the animation in it. I love the story. That is my favorite stop motion animated film.
I get it.
Yep. Number one.
Number one, the Lego Movie.
Oh, interesting. Isn't that computer generated?
It's CGI mixed with stop motion.
Okay, I would have never even thought to pick that. It's a great choice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great film.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time, so it definitely had to be my number one. And yeah, the amount of stardom that was in that movie is jaw-dropping. And the fact that it introduced one of the funniest characters of the past few years, and that's Lego Batman. And
He's getting his own movie, right?
he's getting his own movie now because he was so funny. And Chris Pratt killed it. I mean, from beginning to end, I didn't think Morgan Freeman could be that funny, but he did it. And I didn't expect him to do a movie like that either.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Yeah, there was no other choice for me, but the Lego Movie is definitely number one.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice. Man, I would have never thought. I thought that was all computer generated.
No, it was a
stop motion.
It
combination.
was a mix, yeah.
It was,
Nice.
yep.
Another cheating movie. You cheater.
I told you because I've never seen like the new Frankenweenie or any of those.
That's
That
pretty
was
good.
that was my honorable mention was
Was it?
Frankenweenie. I think it's super underrated.
I saw the original one, the Tim Burton's first movie.
Yeah, the short film version of it.
My honorable mention was Paranorman. I think that's a great movie too. So I wanted to mention that, get that out there in case you haven't seen it. Also, Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit is
I
really
do have
good
an
too.
honorable mention.
What is it?
James and the Giant Peach.
Nice. It's a good choice.
Another really good one.
So I just remembered that one. So that's my honorable mention.
What was the movie? I had totally forgot about this one. Was there a movie about a little character that
Nine?
was Nine? Was that
Nine.
stop motion?
I think CGI.
No. Yeah.
Was that CG?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's CGI.
Well,
Nine
forget
is
I
also
mentioned
underrated.
it then. Forget I mentioned it. All right, let's finish up with some buried treasure.
Let's do it.
What's one thing in pop culture you want to make sure people know about? Andrew, let's start with you.
So I'm going to mention an app since I'm sitting in Danae's chair. I have to do an app, and it's one that DeVaughn showed me last night, and I am loving it thoroughly. It's called
You stole
Letterboxd.
mine. That's what I was going to do for my buried treasure.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're awesome. Go for it.
So no,
That's
I'll
so
let you do
weird.
it.
That's
had a
what
cou-
I was going to do too, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'll let you go ahead because I actually do have another one I can use for mine. So I'll let
So
you
we're
talk
on to
about
DeVaughn. Tell us about Letterboxd app.
Yeah, the buried treasure that I just stole. But no, yeah, I showed Andrew Letterboxd yesterday, and it's the way it's described is it's a social media for film buffs. That's essentially what it is. You write reviews and you keep a diary of every movie that you're watching. It keeps track for you, and like at the end of the year, it'll do your year in cinema for you and stuff. And you make lists and stuff. It's everything that a film buff wants. So you can list your favorite movies, directors, whatever you want. And
I've had so many people tell me I should be on Letterboxd.
It's so much fun,
just like,
and you just connect with other people
is it
on their
easy?
reviews.
Like, I need something that's like,
No, it's pretty.
that I don't have to invest a lot of time in.
I picked it up
Yeah,
immediately.
it's pretty easy. Like I got into it in the middle of the year last year, so I didn't start keeping track of like all my stuff until like 2016 started. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna keep track for this entire year. But it's just real fun to be able to write reviews and like see other people's reviews and just like other film buffs like you.
The app may do it for me to have it right there in my hand.
See, the app is more recent. The app just came in the last like 6 months or so.
Can you do
It was a
everything
website.
you need to do on the app?
Now you can, yes. They worked
Oh, that
out.
might be my in. That might be my in.
Because
then.
I started off with the beta version of it, and it had a lot of bugs in it. But now you can do everything from the app, but it's also works really well on laptops and such.
Very cool. Andrew, you want to go next?
Okay, so mine is a movie, and it came out a long time ago. I think it came out in 2004, but I had some friends who had never seen it before, and I made them watch it the other night. One of my favorite movies, it's called Lucky Number 11. Have you guys seen this movie?
I've heard of it, and that's the one with Lucy Liu's in that one,
Lucy
right?
Liu,
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett, Ben Kingsley, and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
And because we talked about Morgan Freeman in the Lego Movie, that's what made me think, oh yeah, we watched that the other night. It's a totally underrated movie. It's in my top 100 movies of all time. It's twists from left to right, and I love Josh Hartnett's performance in that movie, because before that movie, he was just the teen heartthrob, and I just couldn't get behind him as an actor. But after that movie, I'm like, I'm sold. This guy has some talent. And it's a great, great story.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
The ending of that movie is like captivating. You just want to watch it over and over again.
What do you think it is about it that's so captivating to you?
For the fact that Josh Hartnett's character is so lovable, you want nothing more than to see him make it through. You're just pushing, and there's so many unanswered questions. Who is he? Why is all this stuff happening to him? And then whenever they deliver on that ending and they just tell you everything, you're like, yes, it's everything I ever wanted it to happen.
That's always a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's like a euphoria,
Yeah.
when a movie gives you exactly what, like wish fulfillment kind of stuff.
Yeah, very
and
satisfying.
And Bruce Willis is so good in that movie, too.
That's right. He's in it too.
Mm-hmm.
when he cared, the good old days.
Yeah. All right, Aaron, buried treasure.
My buried treasure is Netflix's new show, The Get Down. We had talked about possibly reviewing it here on the podcast. And after I watched a little bit of it, I was like, I don't know, we need to do a full review, but I did want to let people know kind of some thoughts on it. It is, at times, the most fascinating TV show I've ever seen, and at times, the most boring TV show I've ever seen.
Sounds like Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah. Well, no, listen, Moulin Rouge is one of my favorite all-time
Moulin
movies.
Rouge.
I mean, Baz Luhrmann does some incredible stuff, and he's not confined by how a lot of directors see the world. Like, he has his own vision of like a heightened sense of art, that he does. And you can see that in this TV show. You can also see that that he had nobody putting the brakes on. Like, it's one of those things where it's just it's a lot. I mean, the pilot is an hour and a half long.
Have you read like some of the articles about like the production of this?
Just a little bit of it.
And just the fact that it still came to be from all the things that it went through and everything. I'm definitely excited.
But some of the music stuff in it is almost transcendent. Like, it's really beautiful. And some of the, so it's just kind of like, it's that thing of where you're eating a sandwich and you just, from one bite to the next, you're not sure if you're going to love it or if you're going to hate it.
Have you watched the whole first part?
Yeah. Okay. So I've watched the first couple episodes.
So it's 70s inner city New York, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk about how expensive it was to make.
Oh, really?
Apparently
The most expensive Netflix show to date.
Well,
Really?
apparently Netflix is just rolling in the dough, so they don't care. They just hand out money and let people go crazy. But you can see the money on the screen. Like, the especially the models of New York City from the 70s, like it's gorgeous. I mean, it's just really beautiful.
I'll definitely check that one out,
Yeah,
because
I think
it's in my queue.
Yeah, I think it's worth checking out. Just be ready that you may not like parts of it.
Because I started to watch it, I'm like, well, I have a little bit of time, I can watch it before we go to the movies. And then it started, it said an hour and a half on the pile. I'm like, I'm going to have to do this one later.
Yeah, and I think they released the first 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And I think there's 6 more coming. Is that right? I think they're going to release a second batch. which I can't remember Netflix doing that.
Peaky Blinders does that.
Peaky Blinders does that, yeah.
So
I'm excited for it. I've been doing on my channel.
Have you watched any of it?
No, I do like binge breakdowns on my channel. So like I'll watch like the whole first half and I'll do a review on my binging experience. Like not only the show itself, but like what makes a show bingeable, like when you want to keep watching it and stuff like that.
So you binge it all at once?
Like the last one I did Stranger Things. I did all in one night from like 9 p.m. to like 6 in the morning. I do the entire thing and then do my video about it. So that's why I'm gonna do the first half of it though.
Well, I think that's it, guys. You got anything else you wanna mention about anything we talked about today?
I think we
any
did a good
lingering
job.
thoughts? I think we covered everything we want to cover.
We covered everything.
Thanks so much for joining us today. SiftPop is part of the Shoe the Dough podcast network. You can find out more about other live and later shows on the network by following the feed at mixler.com/shoethedough. That's mixlr.com/shoethedough. Huge thanks to today's guru, DeVaughn. Well done, man.
Thank you. I
Great
really
having
appreciate
you on
it.
the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun.
Tell us a little bit about where people can find you, anything you want to plug, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook and YouTube at Deezus Live. That is DeeZus Live, and that's where my Facebook, I put all my videos, and that's where you find my YouTube channel as well. And then on Twitter at Deezus12, where you can find out pretty much anything about my life. Very explicit on Twitter. Follow me.
And we're also, as always, joined by Andrew from Flick Freaks.
Yay.
What can people find out from you?
Head over to youtube.com/Flick Freaks. You'll find reaction videos, reviews, let's plays, all the great nerd stuff you could ever wish for. We're on pretty much every single form of social media /Flick Freaks. Head over there, see if you like it. I always say at the end of the podcast, our stuff is less family friendly than SiftPop. Just a disclaimer for everybody. But yeah, I am really proud of the stuff we put out, and channel is growing very rapidly.
On the continuum from Kubo and the Two Strings to Wolf of Wall Street, like where is Flick Freaks on the family friendly continuum?
It's somewhere around War Dogs.
Okay, all right. Makes a lot of sense. And if you want to follow me in more places, you can just search for my name, Aaron Dicer, AARONDICER. And you should find all my social medias. If you want to go to yourmoviefriend.com, you can check out all of my reviews. Thanks again to our amazing Patreon supporters. We love you. Thank you for giving monthly to make this show and others on the Shoe the Dough Network possible.
Indeed.
Support starts at $1 a month and comes with some pretty fun perks. You can find out more at patreon.com/shoethedough. By the way, if you know of a podcast or have a podcast idea that you'd like to see on the network, make sure and let us know. All feedback, as always, welcome at AaronandDanae@gmail.com.